Ladies and gentlemen, very good morning to you and welcome to Taipei for the Intel Extreme Masters Taipei, our 25th StarCraft 2 event in a very long history. It is, of course, Season 9. We're at the last stop of the season for our World Championships in March in Katowice. Last chance saloon then for the StarCraft players to qualify through. 16 fantastic players all battling it out for the $10,000 prize fund and, of course, those important 750 WCS points as well. Alongside me on the desk to start the day, we have Apollo, we have Maynard, and we have Sue. Welcome, everyone. How you doing?
Very good, mate.
Very good to be here. This is great.
Yeah, it's good to have you here as well. Great to have you back with us again, Maynard. I know we've had a few ribbings about cricket and rugby, and they'll probably continue through the day, but nevertheless, it's even though England suck right now in all of those sports, it's great to have you with us. Yeah,
I mean, the 4 or 5 esports fans that follow cricket and rugby as well as StarCraft will definitely appreciate the banter, Paul. I definitely think it's definitely worth bringing up on the desk.
Absolutely, all 5 of them. You're right.
It's okay. Yeah. You know what? You and I can go over and hash about the NFL.
Well,
I think
Super Bowl
we
hasn't
might
happened,
have
Susie. It might have to be a post-Super Bowl thing, because I might actually run out of ammo after Seahawks beat the Patriots.
Wow, and so it begins. In Control is already spinning out of control. John, let's blow the cobwebs off. Let's talk about StarCraft, because it seems to have been a while. San Jose last time we were involved, of course, and I know winter break's been good and everything, but it's great to get back, isn't it?
Yeah, it's been very refreshing, not just for me, but for the players and fans as well. There's been a 6-week break since the last big StarCraft tournament, and now it's 2015. It's the first big event of the year, and a lot more to come.
Yeah, absolutely. Right, let's take you through the schedule first and show you what's coming up over the next 4 days, because we do have 4 more days of StarCraft 2. If you were with us yesterday, there were some terrific bracket games going on in bracket 1 and 2, and we have our 4 players through to the group stages, which begin today. We'll start with Group A and Group B today, and other matches that we don't cover will also be on our B stream with Roddy and Nate. Tomorrow we'll move on to Group C and D. Saturday we'll see the quarterfinals, and then on Sundays we will have Championship Sunday. It won't just be the NFL Super Bowl, it'll also be the Intel Extreme Masters Taipei Grand Final and semi-finals as well. Our 4 groups look like this. Groups A through to D, it's the usual suspects through. Group A, Sen, local hero, Polt, CJ enters hero, triple winner of the Intel Extreme Masters, and Hyun, all, of course, premier winners at one point or another. Group B has Classic, past them, the only European remaining after Snoop crashed out yesterday, Rain and Czech. C sees Sand, 4GG, Life, the world champion, and Solkey, who came through from the brackets yesterday. All 4 of those have a premier title between them as well. And in Group D, if that wasn't enough to whet your appetite, there's Maru, Hydra, Parting, and True. Honestly, there are times, gentlemen, that I look at this, and lady, that I look at these 4 groups and think, holy Moses, we're so lucky to have these great players in here.
Yeah, Group C and D stand out the most. They've got players that we haven't seen before in the Intel Extreme Masters. They're players who are on form right now as well. This, you know, we said almost at every StarCraft tournament, this is one of the best we've seen. And to be honest, this is one of the better ones.
Yeah, it's weird, isn't it, Mayno? Because I know you watch a lot of these and the qualifiers online, and even the qualifiers are, well, to be blunt, they're bloody hard to get through, aren't they?
The Asian final, especially for IEM Taipei, was ridiculous. Yeah. I mean, a lot of these players lost to incredible people that you would never expect to be like. I mean, the final for cricket, it's a shame because a lot of the Oceanic dudes have to play in it. But you're almost guaranteed when you're lumped in with the Koreans that the big scary guys are going to go through. And even some of the scary guys didn't make it. Like True had to come to the open bracket to qualify. A guy like True had to come here.
And then had to play Solkey first round.
I know, I saw that.
First round.
You know, it's been a while since I've been back on, you know, doing a lot of things for StarCraft.
Yes, welcome back from the dark side.
Thank you very much. But no, this is really exciting for me to come to this event and see all the really high-end players who've, you know, they've just been dominating throughout, and it's great to see some of the Kespa players here as well.
Absolutely.
So I'm really excited.
You hung out with them yesterday. You were sort of milling around watching some of the matches. What was your general feeling? Who felt to you like they were in form, they were doing well?
Actually, you know, I've been talking to them all morning, and they're all feeling really good. 4GG kind of was like, oh, as soon as I saw Soki's in my group, I kind of laid, you know, I might be throwing in the towel and just enjoying my time in Taipei. But, you know, other than that, everyone else I've talked to, they're feeling really good this morning. So, I don't know, got some great games coming our way.
Yeah, absolutely. Just before we head into talk about Group A, Maynard, who stands out for you? I know you watch a ton of StarCraft. You're a fan.
I am a fan.
Who stands out of the 16? I mean, there's a few, but is there one that really, you know, you think,
for me, it's a Terran, and it being his debut in an Intel Extreme Masters, Maru is the guy that I'm looking at today. I really want him to do well. I want him to be in the final. I'm assuming it's probably going to be against herO or Life, but I want that final badly.
As a fellow bro, Terran, I'm with you.
As a Terran bro, as a dude bro, Terran.
Absolutely excited to see Mario. What about you, Sean?
I have to agree, he's definitely one to look out for, but there's 3 players that stand out above every other player in this tournament. It is Mario.
Yep.
And it's also herO, naturally, at the Intel Extreme Masters, and then it's Life, who's on fire right now. He's a BlizzCon champion, he's qualified and doing well in GSL and in Star League, and he's a key player in Pro League as well.
Are you not cheering for the love of your life, True?
Well, if I want to be realistic, I have to say those 3 names. But True made it out of the open bracket again.
Yeah.
It's his 3rd time out the open
100%
bracket.
rate, man.
100% rate, because he's played in 3 IEMs now, and he's 100% win rate in the open bracket. And today is the day he will also advance from group stage for the first time.
I was going to say, because every time he's done that, he's done the hard work, and then he hasn't been able to go any further, so he's disappointed, hasn't he, every other time? And
really unfortunate. The last 2 Intel Extreme Masters he's played, and he lost to Snoot twice.
Yes.
This time, he's going to knock out Parting to move on, so it's going to be really good, because Morrow's definitely going through in Group D, but True's going with him.
Okay. Before we go any further, let's look at Group A's bracket. This is what we're going to be playing through this morning. We'll start off with our feature match, which is Polt versus CJ into herO. We'll talk about that in a moment. But also the local man, of course, from Taipei, Sen, who the last time he was here in Taipei actually won the title against Hyun by winning 4-3 in the Taiwanese Open. So there's a little bit of form between those two. You can watch that one on Group B. As ever, it's dual tournament format. And of course, the winner goes automatically through from the upper, and the lower will also advance to the quarterfinals, which will take place on Saturday. Right, let's turn our attention to game 1. Polt versus CJ into herO. Now, they've got form, these two. They've played each other 4 times in matches, Sean. Polt's only won 1 of those, but vitally, it was one of the only times that we've seen herO lose at an Intel Extreme Masters, but it was all the way back in Sao Paulo. I don't know even if you can put any weight on that anymore, can you?
That's a year ago now. It's pretty much 12 months ago since that happened. It's, for me, looking at this, I have to 100% go favourite towards herO. herO's on form right now. He had a big loss recently in Star League against Life, but against Terran, he's an absolute menace. His Blink Stalker play, his Oracle play, he's so tenacious when he approaches Terrans. And Polt's been looking shaky recently. It took him 3 attempts to qualify for WCS America, a region that he's been dominating over the last year. 3 attempts in a region that doesn't have any Koreans really anymore in it. I have to go herO. This is
I'm gonna say again, in conversation this morning, I was talking with Polt a bit, and I mean, he was the first guy here practicing. But he's actually betting on herO to win as well. and it kind of made me sad. It might be mind games. We don't know. But he was like, herO. If you say IEM, it's CJ herO. And so how can I go against that? So I'm not sure exactly, what his thought process is under this. I mean, he might just be here for the experience, but he might have just said that to me to throw me completely off and then wreck face. I mean, we don't really know, do we?
All right, Maynard, you're the Terran expert here. Come on, let's see some support for Polt.
Expert is very generous.
but in terms of where he's been, Sean's right. His last couple of months have been poor, but he's Polt, for crying out loud. He's won 6 titles.
He is Polt, and being Captain America aside, this isn't America anymore. This is a very, very scary bracket with some very scary players. And I'm not going to lie to you guys, I'm tipping herO as well.
Oh, herO plays week in, week out against the best players in the world in Pro League, Star League, and GSL.
He played Flash recently, and sure, Flash hasn't been on form, but he showed the blink into DT. You can go blink into DT without taking too much of a gas hit against Terran, and it looks so scary, and he pulled it off so cleanly against one of the best Terrans. He's in a slump, but he's still one of the best Terrans in the world. And, I mean, Polt, what's he done? Recently, he's been playing in Zotac Cup. He didn't do so great in the qualifiers. I mean, the guy just doesn't have a lot going for him at the moment, I'm sorry to say.
Okay, if we take herO out of the equation for a moment, and we almost assume, as Aligulac does, by the way, that he will dominate the group and go through in first place, is that second place up for grabs? Does Sen have some local support behind him that might take him and carry him above Hyun and above Polt? Or does Hyun come into this naturally, maybe he secures that second spot?
For me, Hyun is taking second place more than likely today. There's been a recent surge of Zergs beating a lot of Terrans recently. There was a phase a couple months back where Terrans were beating Zergs, but it's gone back in favor of Zerg again recently. Hyun's had a break, and we know that Hyun is a guy who travels every week, but he's also just come off the back of the Christmas period where he's had 6 weeks of not doing anything, really. And I think he's in pretty good shape as well, being able to come through the open bracket yesterday. Sen, You know, the last time he played Hyun, and the only time he played Hyun, he did beat him. But that was during the period where Hyun was traveling all over the world to every continent every other week. I think this is today where Hyun steps up and advances through.
Okay.
You know, I'm going to have to say Hyun as well, especially because knowing Sen, he hasn't really had much experience playing against a whole lot of Koreans. You know,
that's true.
Koreans as well. Yeah. And so I'm thinking, and Hyun is used to these international tournaments. He's been all around the world, like Sean has said, and I just think he'll be in top form to be able to take that second place spot.
I mean, we shouldn't forget, of course, that Sen is massively experienced. I mean, he was at BlizzCon in 2011, top 4. He was at the Battle.net World Championships in 2012. I think he finished top 4 as well there. Yep. So he's got some form. He knows what these players are about. I mean, I take your point. You've all said it. He doesn't play Koreans every day, but there's something about him, surely. You can't just turn up to his home event and go home after 2 matches. I'm afraid I think that's actually what's going to happen here today. I'd be very surprised if he's able to make this win. For me, if he does it, it's a massive upset if he's able to take a win today. You know, to play devil's advocate then, you know, we're going to go ahead and say he is the first foreigner to win a Premier Tournament. That's not Korean, right? Yep. And also since December 2012, yes, the only foreigner. That's a long time. Which is a very long time. Last one being Stute, also, you're right, he is hometown. You know, there's all these fans behind him. He's kind of comfortable here. I'll play devil's advocate and say maybe, but yeah. All right. I don't think it matters how much Sue a little bit. I don't think it matters how much experience you have if you aren't as good as the rest of the players. Fair enough. Fair enough. All right. One last question before we go over to our commentators. Map pool has changed, of course. New season's where the map pools. We've got 4 brand new maps in there, 3 that have been seen before. Overgrowth is like, it's the Frost of Season 3. It's the one we all know and love, and everyone plays it. It's been played 21 times yesterday alone. The next 2 most popular maps were Catalina and Deadwing. No surprise there because they're familiar. What do you make of the new 4 maps? Do you feel like they've maybe helped Protoss a little bit? Just very quickly, because apparently we're about to go into the game. I think it's very difficult to say right now. We haven't seen these maps used in the professional set yet until today. They've been used on ladder, and that's kind of it, so it's hard to tell at the moment. All right, okay. Well, we'll pick that up afterwards. For now, though, we are heading over to our commentary team of Kalaris and Todd for Game 1. Day 1 of Taipei was fantastic here at the Intel Extreme Masters with the open bracket, but with the round of 16 now starting, it's a whole other level of talent. herO versus Polt to start things off on day number 2. What are you feeling, Todd?
I feel like this is maybe one of the best matches to get into the tournament with. Really 2 players who are household names, big fans' favorite, and we're already into the game. That was fast. All right, let's get into things then. Game number 1 of day 2, as we have spawning over on the left-hand side of the map, it is CM Storm's Polt. And down to the bottom right-hand corner are red Protoss representing CJ Entus. It is herO, who the last time we saw these 2 play, or the last time I really feel we had these 2 play at an Intel Extreme Masters, a World Championship in Katowice, it was so close in that round of 4, 3-2 in favor of herO, moving on to the final. So I'm very, very excited to see these guys play once again. And our esports historian, Red Eye, pointed out very nicely that herO is one of the only 2 guys with Snoots to ever beat herO in an Intel Extreme Masters that was in Sao Paulo. And those games were actually really sick. I remember all the multitask back then. Polt, his style was brand new. You know, this style of attacking in 2 places at the same time with big chunks of army. Since then, it's evolved a lot. He's doing a lot more, you know, big doom drops to try and snipe the nexus of his opponents. And I'm pretty sure that's what he's going to want to look to do here. But the thing is, up against somebody like herO, who's just so good with Blink Stalkers and resorts to using them almost every single game, it's going to be so hard to find a hole in the defense to drop and do damage. Yeah, this is a good map for him to start on as well for herO, just being able to use that kind of blink play with a lot of surface area around the main base. Polt, though, is opening up pretty darn greedy. And at the same time, herO is keeping an eye on the edge of those rocks pretty fast in this game, so he wants to make sure no Reapers are going to be coming from that direction. Actually, herO is always gone for, like, you know, those very nicely placed pylons, and lately he's even evolved that. You know, he just played Flash recently in Pro League, and his second pylon was a very Zest-ish pylon, you know, around the ramp of the natural to see any kind of Reaper hopping up that one ramp to be able to maybe help protect, spot whatever Reaper could come up there, or even units later on. And the third pylon is always in a position where usually he goes for the Twilight. So, for example, if I had to guess this game, I'd say it might be to the very right of his main base. Okay. And if you know that as Polt, it makes it interesting because you already kind of know, you know, if you scout with an SCV where the pylons are, where to scan to try and see exactly what you're up against. But up against Flash on Overgrowth,
he went for a Dark Shrine behind the middle line of his natural, which is very, very hard to spot. And if you don't see it, and you don't have any turrets, or in this case, even flash at the turret at the natural in middle line against Oracle or DTs, he got the DTs dropped in the main, sniped the tech lab, cancelled combat shield, so, and then from there, it's very, very hard for a Terran to be able to do well. So Polt is gonna have to be careful. I talked to him about this game, and he told me that he saw it. So he knows what hero's capable of in terms of opening Blink, plus possible Dark Templars as well.
But it's interesting that you bring that up, because one thing that Polt's doing here with the command center first is that technically he doesn't have the opportunity for Reaper, so getting in there to see earlier pylons to know where to scan later on does hurt the idea of being able to spot things later, which is kind of annoying. herO trying to poke in, at least he sees the CC first opener, so he knows what he's playing against at this point.
If we're talking purely stylistically, herO is the guy that almost always opened with Blink and Blink Stalkers, and Polt is the guy who came up with, I guess, what at least I like to call the anti-Blink Stalker build.
Exactly.
Where you go for 3 barracks, get a lot of bioforces, then you make sure that not only your opponent cannot do that much damage, but you can also punish Greed and maybe a quicker third than otherwise. So that makes it very interesting when these two face off, just to know that they can go for this and that they, their style. Supposedly, Polt's style would counter herO's style, but herO has so much initiative when you open with Blink Stalkers the way he does. So that's going to have to be one of the things that we keep in mind, and we already saw a Twilight Council go down in this game, so I'm pretty sure that we're at least going to see Blink, maybe a Dark Shrine as well. Would you like to see some DTs?
I wouldn't mind it.
Everybody likes to see DTs, but just not in their games and against them.
Just not against them.
That's how it goes.
When you hear the noise of the swipe, it's
the swipe.
Yeah, the swipe. It's like Hong
the
Kong.
Hack and slash.
Yeah, the hack and slash.
The execution, the butchery.
Yeah. It depends how much damage you're going to take it if your missile turrets are in the right place, I guess.
Yeah.
But you're totally right, and you pretty much stole the words right out of my mouth. Polt has been so good against Blink, but again, if you mix it up a little bit, if you do add those DTs for flavor, like we've seen herO do, then it can get a little bit scary. For now, though, as the game has gone on, Polt's looking okay. Not too many huge decisions have been made, but it's going to be difficult for him to spot that Twilight Council, I think, again, because he didn't have that Reaper opener, didn't quite know where all the pylons were in the main base to be able to spot later on.
Thing is, when you play against herO, even if you don't see that Twilight Council, like, you can always kind of get a feel of how many Stalkers he has on the map, and that's already a massive tail that is usually going for Blink, and he's pretty much like 90% of the time going for it. So shouldn't be that much of a big deal, like, it's not like he's going to get surprised by Blink ever anyway when playing against herO. It's interesting, though, what Susie mentioned with talking a little bit to Polt, and Polt not sounding confident at all, basically saying that he predicted herO to do very well here. That's not something I'm really used to with the players coming here. A lot of them, they want to be confident, and even if they're not, they try to basically tell themselves that they are very confident and that they're going to do well, but Polt was just like, yeah, I think herO should win against me and stuff. That's maybe not the best taste of mind, so I'm curious whether it's because he's just not that confident overall, or because he wants to be relaxed about it. Maybe not put too much pressure on himself. You know.
I mean, what do you think about Polt's chances in this group overall? Because going up against herO, very, very tough opponent, of course. A lot of people pegging herO to win here. But then if you look at the rest of the group, with Sen and Hyun, he hasn't looked that fresh against Zergs. If we go back to what Apollo was saying with how he kind of wasn't able to do too well in the first and second qualifier of WCS America, he went out to 2 Zergs during that. Not in very convincing fashion from his side of things. So, like, what do you think his chances are overall?
The thing is, for a tournament like this, he gets to think a lot about his matches. He's a very smart player, and even if, say, he was in the worst shape of his life against Zerg, I really feel like getting to think so much about a match and an opponent is going to give a massive edge to somebody like Polt, who's just so good at thinking hard on his build order and how he's going to play against somebody's style. And I mean, it's not like also Hyun against Terran is like super unpredictable in regards as to, like, he has 1,000 builds. He has like one general style, which he's a little bit predictable to some extent. So I would go as far maybe as saying that for me, Polt is even maybe the favorite against Hyun or against the Zergs, even though, he hasn't done that well. And even if he was to win against herO, obviously I think herO's the favorite, but I wouldn't even be that shocked. Like, that's how much I respect Polt. Even though he has hard times here and there, he's always played so well in the past that I just can't get that image away from myself of him just being this beast that just wins games.
I completely understand your point of view, because he is such an intelligent player. It's something that I've honed in on for a long, long time. Him being a very cerebral player overall. He knows...
Cerebral. Huh?
Yeah, man.
I like that.
I'm going to go with the WWE term of he's the cerebral assassin, man. He's like Triple H. And he's very, very good when it comes to thinking about the game, in and out. He pretty much knows what you're going to be doing. And approaching herO, as you said, he probably knows Blink's going to come onto the table very, very soon.
I was asking him about practice, actually. I was asking him whether he practices a lot and where does he practice Korean ladder, and he was just telling me that he does not practice all that much currently compared to what he used to. And when I asked him why, he said that he felt old. So I was like, man, you're talking to the right guy. I can totally relate. You know, when you've been playing for so long time and you've played so many games in your life, it's really hard, you know, to keep up with the routine of training that you need to have in StarCraft 2, which is basically a lot of hours every day, ideally like up to 10 hours of practice, or at least watching VODs, watching streams, studying build orders, talking about strategies, and playing, just raw playing, be it ladder or custom games. You need to play a lot. So it can get difficult at times to, you know, play a lot. And yeah, I was asking him about it. I'm like, oh yeah, I know the feeling. Like you play a few games and then you feel like you need to take a break, but then you extend that break before you kind of play again, but then you need to take another break. So the young guns, guys like Maru, Life, I really feel like these guys, they can easily play unlimited amounts, just as they desire. But for all the guys like Polt or myself, it can be a little bit more difficult.
You are getting pretty old, I will admit. You are getting pretty old. But also, I mean, it's a good point. Back into the game. But yeah, he's actually in a group with a lot of old people. I mean, Sen is there. He's pretty old
it's
now.
It's funny we say
so
old. They are like mid to late 20s.
Not Paul old, let's be honest. Not Paul old. But they are pretty old. So, anyway, let's get back into the game on Catalina. As you can see, Blink is already on the way for herO. So, if Polt has anticipated this kind of play coming out, which I suspect he probably has, we're going to see him try and figure this out a little bit and then accommodate to it.
Okay, 3 additional gates. Okay. Usually, or at least recently when he played against Flash, he just added the 1 more because I guess he did want to go for the Dark Shrine pretty early, and you still do need a little bit of money with that. The robot timing is pretty standard here for being herO. But the 4 gates, this may mean that he wants to go for quite a few Stalkers and basically, you know, blink up the ramp around the, you know, that potential 3rd base on the right-hand side of Polt's main.
Yeah.
Blink from there into the main and try and do a lot of damage, or at least as much as he can. And we've seen quite a few Protosses use Blink very well on this map, Parting being one of them. You know, at a time where offensive Blink wasn't doing nearly as well as, you know, back in the Yonsu and Heavy Rain days. Somehow these guys just are bringing it back, and I have to say, like, their blink movement and all that just makes it so difficult to practice and react well to it, just because it's so perfect. They will always blink up there when your army is not ready, as the Terran trades blink, cooldown, and shields up against, you know, costly units.
Ooh, and that might be a little bit misleading considering he doesn't see too much out of his base right now. He saw a robo as well as extra gases going down. Of course, still, you know,
hey, look at the reaction though. He knows his blink. He like unloads the bunker and goes into the main.
Yeah, he's positioned himself really well on the ramp to make sure that he's between those bases so that he can bounce back and forth if he sees them. Even sees a few Stalkers outside. Really good scout there by Polt to be able to anticipate an aggression that's on the way.
And our Observer Legend pointed out that Blink was indeed finished, and losing 1 Stalker here directly.
Yeah,
herO's in a slump.
Not too characteristic there, losing that quickly. And then after losing that Stalker, instantly going into the Robo base. So this is forcing a reaction of defense out of Polt, but notice he hasn't really made too much in his main in terms of defense. Yeah. This army is just well positioned to be able to greet this. And also, he's noticing probably that there hasn't been that many extra Stalkers added on between that extra fight. These ones coming in now might tip him off a little.
He's trying to get a critical mass of Stalkers with which you can even fight against this massive army of Polt. But Polt having opened with 3 barracks and pumping out that much bioforces, I really feel like if he plays this well, Polt is going to be in a great position. And herO right now is making most of the situation. He's trying to trade just shields for units, but he's actually lost a few Stalkers here and there. He finally got to snipe on that bunkers. And with a Warp Rhythm plus Robo Bay behind this, I'm really starting to think that herO might want to go into the 3rd base. I really feel like herO's not the guy to go for an all-in. And look, he restarts pro production here. He's going to drop Zealots in the main and attack at the front with Blink Stalkers.
Well, that's what makes a player like herO so incredibly scary. It's that he is pressuring you at the front with a Blink Stalker attack that can be extremely detrimental to a Terran, but then there are transitions behind it. The War Prism Harass on the way whilst this Blinker is going on, then the Colossi coming in as well. So Polt's accommodating, once again, for plans that are, you know, he's seeing face on.
He's not realizing that there is a drop in the main, I think.
Yeah.
He finally evacuates, but this many Zealots is going to be pretty hard to kill. They could even go for the eBay. Oh, they're blocking each other.
It'd be very nice to get that +1 down, but unfortunately we're blocked off by those minerals, so not exactly getting the most damage done that he would like to, as it's halfway complete. I don't think he's going to be able to kill this off by the time the bio will be able to save.
Yeah, has to evacuate, but at the same time, the 3rd base started. What are you guys doing here?
walking to their deaths, unfortunately.
You know, actually, like, with the amounts of units that herO has lost and with the damage that is done, this might be an incentive for Polt just to go for maybe even some kind of SUV pull and an attack on the natural or third base of his opponent. If you think about it, as I said, that he starts with third CC. Thank you, Polt.
Well,
guess I was wrong.
Blinkstalker's going to head forwards once again, but can't get too much done now. The fact that that army is just a bit too big at the front there.
Whoa!
All
Not
right.
a regular third base here for herO.
Well,
It's a hidden one and a lot of additional gateways. I guess since he went for double forge, he wants to maybe. Oh, he's gonna get that.
Nice
Really nice
pickup.
snipe. Actually, how many Vikings are we on? I think just a few, but oh, Polt playing a little bit sloppy here and there.
All right, at least he was able to get one medevac though in return of that Warp Prism going down to the left-hand side, but
I really
losing.
feel like, sorry, but Polt's army is so scary. Like if he was to get just a few more Vikings and attacks. Okay, yes, he's actually just on 2. I thought he had maybe 4 to 6 now, but
that many.
yeah, army supply is 73 to 48. It's the strength of herO right now. He's only in the Colossus.
Blinks forwards, trying to kill off a few of these Marauders as well. Few force fields, actually. So he does get a little bit of that bio on the retreat out, but Polt saves the majority of it. Good blink forwards to take out one of those medevacs on the retreat out. And now this base is eventually going to become an issue because Polt is going to poke forwards, eventually see that there's still no third base and be like, well, I don't really think if I can push forwards because all of his money's been going into this. But if that base is to come to fruition properly up to the top right-hand corner, that could, oh, well.
Why not?
herO.
Because
herO.
he can.
I guess so.
Because he's Protoss.
He's got to be careful there. That's a lot of investment
Yeah.
into 2 Nexus that aren't going to pay for themselves for a little bit here. So if Polt wants to press the issue, I suppose the 3 Colossi against only 2 Vikings are really holding ground for him at this point.
I don't think I saw an Armory. And because of the way, you know, Polt has been a little bit sloppy here and there with his units, he's got quite a few Medivacs and Marauder snipes. I feel like there is a chance that here he might go for a timing with just enough Vikings to counter the Colossus. Maybe even an SCV pull.
Wouldn't you be let's theorize a second. Wouldn't you be careful against someone who you don't know is on 3 base yet here because they could have like teched into something like Stormy? I mean, he doesn't have a Ghost Academy down for anything like that. Of course, it's not there, but
he's just playing, you know, the assuming game. He's assuming that behind this, you know, there is going to be a lot of Colossus in any case. And I think he saw up to maybe 2 or 3 earlier when he moved out. So he knows that if he gets enough Vikings here and he goes for an attack, it's going to be so damn strong of an attack. And I really feel like this is what might happen. Even though usually Polt doesn't really play like this. He's more of a, you know, doom drop kind of guy that we try to snipe the Nexus here and there.
Well, he's taking his gases on his third base as well during all of this. So
4 Medivacs, man.
Oh, moving around the right-hand side as well. Polt has always been very, very well known for those kind of counter-attack based styles. This pylon that was added on so long ago is going to actually have a little bit of play up to that
Oh, he's going to
base.
load it up and go for the main here in a second, I think. And pull back around the natural.
Well, seeing how far the army is out of place, it would be
He has
perfect.
to drop.
It would be great. He's
sure why he's
taking a
not
little
doing
bit
it
of
yet.
damage, but
The thing is, if he scans for the main now, herO's going to realize what's up. And herO's actually just heading on home right now. This feels like a little bit of a bait here by herO. Maybe he was thinking about attacking, but upon seeing that chunk of army here, he probably realized that Polt, if he sees that your army is out of position, he's going to drop your main, or he's going to drop one of your bases and go for the Nexus. So he pulls back home, and now he's waiting for Polt to drop, in which case he's just going to try and crush whatever it is that he's dropping. And herO must have so many probes by now. Oh my god, like 4 bases. Just 66 actually.
Yeah.
Okay, he spread out the probes very well across those bases then, I guess.
it's interesting that herO took no extra gases on his 3rd or 4th base. With the Templar Archives coming in now, he might be a bit gas-starved across all of this, unless he adds some in.
But I think he just wants to make sure that he maxes out. He realizes that he's behind on supply, and actually look, oh my
Very
god,
far.
153 to a max out Terran. It's gonna be so hard for him to hold. He needs to get a lot of charge lots, and Archons. 2-2 is gonna complete before the attack though.
This is interesting. I don't think he had any observers really on, like any perimeters of his base to be able to spot anything
Here
because
we
he was
go.
so focused on the Robo. Recall comes down to try and save this. One Colossus already falls. So does the second one. Really nice pickups here
There is
by
no
Polt.
Stalkers to stop the Medivacs.
Yeah, he can just go wherever he wants.
He's just gonna get out, and at the same time, this massive chunk of army without Medivacs actually is attacking the 4th base.
But this is a great position here for Polt because if any Colossi come forwards, those Vikings are going to have a really nice spot to gun them down. This Nexus ends up falling. Thankfully for herO, he has one up to the north, but this is not the position he wants to be in at all. He is really up against it. So far down in supply,
Polt
it's going to
has
be very difficult.
so many Vikings. They're getting sniped now. He needs to be careful. He needs to defend those ASAP. He's going to go for the attack and close in on this Colossus.
He could just push
to
it.
2.
He could just push that army. The Vikings are now way away from the Stalkers.
the
They're being
Stalkers.
zoned down by the bio. This is a perfect opportunity for him to gun down the Colossi, sky back that Zealot force over there as well. This is difficult, very difficult. herO is plummeting in terms of supply. The bio is chasing down the gateway forces, and he's even in the main dropping as well. So Polt has played this game out very, very well, and herO's composition just didn't work out at all during any of these positions that he tried to get himself in. Very difficult. Losing the rest of the Stalkers, Colossi is going to fall, and Polt is going to be able to take game number 1 here. Pretty handily, actually, I would say. Pretty handily. Another Nexus is going to fall as well.
Yeah, I mean, nothing herO can do at this point. He's trying to stay in the game, but basically over. He didn't do any economic damage. He suffered so much losses, and I can't believe he had such a hard time maxing out. Like, Polt's macro was so insane this game. Never missed a heartbeats.
I don't know if I liked herO's game plan in this game, I'll be honest. Let's talk about it after the game's finished, because herO...
Well, it is finished, Kailas.
I mean, yeah, okay, it was finished a little bit ago, let's be honest. I don't know why this is continuing on, but there you go. It doesn't matter. The point is that all of herO's attention was focused on Colossus, no observers to be able to spot things on the edge of his base. That drop forever was just not noticed up to the top right whilst that was going on. Do you not think he could have branched out to Templar Archives with extra gases on other bases and then used the Robo for a little bit of observers as coverage to be able to spot what things were going on?
I really think that in this game, hiding a base the way he did it is just not that useful. Like, you can do that when you're either very far behind and you think you need to do something like this to come back, or you try to do it very early on, but then it's a big risk and gamble. But in this case, I really could have seen this game just developing into a standard one. Like, he was doing a few damage here and there. He could have just taken a standard third base, tech to Colossus, have his Blink Stalkers in defense, and then just kept on upgrading and later on did the timing. Like he did against Flash in Pro League.
Yeah.
He was even behind in supply against Flash, but he did well, you know, with the standard gameplay and timings. I don't know why he played any different here.
Oh, well. That does it for game number 1 here for the first series of the day. Join us after the break when we'll have game number 2 from Polt versus herO. But yeah, not if we get in a situation like... All right, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Intel Extreme Masters Taipei, as we now get into game number 2 here. And it's going to be Inferno Pools, which I am extremely surprised about. I really wasn't expecting to see this map too often.
You know what, James?
Okay, what?
Why are you so apprehensive of what I'm going to say?
I'm always scared of what
you're
you're
going to say. The old map pool was extremely difficult for Protoss against Darren.
Okay.
So if you give us some fresh maps, even though these might be difficult, it's like a breath of fresh air, and you need to play on them, and you need to try them, and Inferno Pulse is one of those new maps.
All right, well, let's get into that in game number 2 then between Polt and herO to find out who is going to be moving on to the winner's game in Group A. So far, Polt has looked good in that first game. I would dare to say herO didn't look as good as he normally does, but let's get into it. And they spawn close positions in the top. As we have spawning up to the top left, it is Polt from CM Storm. And over on the right position, it is herO from CJ Entus.
Man, that last game, really like kind of still thinking about it, like, and like the way that herO, you know, took that third base, went into the double forge, and then still took another base, because it kind of feels like it wasn't, you know, really well prepared. Like it wasn't something like he was planning on to do before the series started. He probably went with it, you know, on the go. And then after going for that hidden base, he realized, oh, if I stay on 2 bases for too long, it will become obvious that I have another base, so I have to take this one. But then it didn't really make sense because he took a really long time to get these bases up and then saturate them. And I mean, from there, just his macro slipped up a lot, you know. He was lacking a lot of minerals. Polt was spamming mules. He never had to scan basically a single time ever. Like, he saw the Blink Stalkers, that's all he needed to know. And yeah, he just had too much army supply. It was insane. Maxed out when his opponent was on 150, that doesn't really happen usually.
Yeah.
You fall behind in supply, but not that far behind.
It was an interesting situation to be in. And speaking of interesting situations, I think just in general, the spawning positions that we've found ourselves in here on this map are very, very interesting. Technically, it's a really big map. Played on it a few times. But when you get these horizontal positions, you're in for a very interesting time. He's not going to spot the command center first. He's going to go into the main because that's how just the scouting path works out.
But in terms of Blink on this map, like with the super wide natural for Terran,
it's pretty big.
You know, like the old school build where you go for Blink and then you go up to 6 or 7 gates and you all in. On this map, it would be, I think, so good to go for something like this.
Yeah, potentially.
herO may be thinking about something like this and like already scouting for the command center. He's just going to cut gas mining and go for his own Nexus.
Yeah, so it's very difficult for this game for these positions ever to go past the idea of 3 base versus 3 base. I don't suppose we'll even see herO go there too avidly, too quickly. He'll be much more happy to put on a little bit of pressure. There is a lot of room, as you were mentioning before.
It's like Daedalus Point, man. Just like a massive ramp.
Yeah,
that's to wall off. Like, I remember all the funny threads on Reddit. Like, we found out how to wall off this map and they put like 2 CCs and bunkers and like barracks.
Yeah.
And same for Protoss, like Nexus.
Not only that though, but for Protoss on the opposite side of the matchup, the natural and main bases are actually really, really big. So it makes Photon Overcharge a little bit harder to really get its full damage done if the Terran is skirting around the edges of the map, the edges of the bases. So you've got to be careful about that as herO, and that's why we've already seen a pylon down to the south of his base to be able to eventually spot things out later on. He needs to get that information quick.
Come on, Photon Overcharge is still Photon Overcharge, let's be honest.
It's still pretty cool. Yeah, okay, I can go with that.
Okay, Polt's still going for the 3rd barracks here, not going to cut any corners, not going to take gases after just 2. He wants to get lots of bio, lots of Marines, some Marauders behind this. I really like the way he mixed units, by the way, last game. I think it was like 35 Marines, 35 Marauders at some point, so same amounts, and then got just enough Medivacs. Maybe a bit too few, but he had the 4, you know, to drop in the main. And a ton of Vikings against the Colossus of herO. He just played so well against that one style of herO, which is supposedly one of the strongest styles that you can play overall in Protoss versus Terran right now with the Blink into Colossus.
Well, for now, Polt's going to head himself out with a little less CV. I don't think he's really seen too much just yet, has he? I don't recall if he's even scouted. But regardless of that fact, herO has been playing pretty, just normal. He got the Nexus, he's getting his 2 gases down in his natural and going into Robo, so foregoing the idea of Blink for now to go down a more stable mid-game route here is herO.
With the Sentry, interesting. Usually you almost always see something like, a few Stalkers. Like, usually by the time Wargate completes, you have 3 Stalkers, but that's because you're scared of like aggression, and possibly with like some Widow Mines, some Hellions and Medivacs. But in this case, he scouted the command center first. So that made him so confident to basically just chrono boost out probes. I don't think he even made a single additional gateway yet. I think he's still on 1 gate. So he rushes for that Robo Bay. There's going to be a lot of potential for some kind of cheeky Colossus drops or Colossus 2 base all-ins or just quick Colossus in general. And look, he gets the Warp Prism. This is going to be a single Colossus drop, which usually is followed up by an all-in on a lot of gateways with 3 Colossus and Thermal Lens, or 4 if your MC's, big head build.
Big head build. It's very, very fast in the end. Going all of this off 1 gateway, pretty greedy in essence, and well, herO could potentially do a lot of damage with it. How is Polt buckled down? Right now, he's just playing normally.
If you think about it, with all the dead space that there is around the natural of Polt here, there's going to be so much potential for flying around, dropping the Colossus, doing some damage here and there, getting out, and at the same time, with that massive ramp, again, if you go up, you can go up that ramp very easily with lots of forces. Actually, the Robobay gets sniped very... Scanned, I guess. Sniped in a way. Sniped by the scan.
Snipe
scan. And having the info of that, Polt already can start thinking about the possibility of getting attacked by maybe a Colossus drop, and especially later on by an all-in timing.
Yep. And that's a lot of gateways going down as well here. So the initial harass of the Warp Prism down to the bottom left. followed up by big gateway pressure with Colossi. He's got to be anticipating this. There's no other real idea.
He went so far out.
Yeah.
Like all the way around.
Really doesn't want to be spotted.
By the way, back at home, there's not going to be much here for herO's defense. Oh my god.
And this is what I mean by the natural being huge.
That's a massive army. That's a massive chunk of army moving out right now. Like I said, photon overcharge is photon overcharge, but there are limits, Scalaris.
Even when he gets up the ramp, the photon overcharge only really hits the very edge of that initial natural base. So he's going to have to position his army so carefully when going up against this army. At least he's got a Colossus to hold him down, but he's going to have a second one soon as well.
Steam pack and combat shield just completed. We're at the 9th minute mark, and Polt is going to move in.
All right, so one of these gateways is going to get scratched out quite a bit, but he can still move back if he wants to. He's actually positioning his army pretty well. Catches just a few of them with force fields, but takes down one gateway.
I guess there aren't limits to photon overcharge after all, with some sentries and one Colossus. But herO forgot to use his War Prism here for the longest time. He could have just queued. Imagine, I mean, he didn't load it up with any Colossus, which is weird in itself, but he could have dropped some Zealots. That means he would have had a few less units back at home, but he did fine anyway with just the sentries and Colossus that he had there. And it's a bit weird.
These 3 Colossi are going to hit at a time where the Starport's only just finished, and he's the second Starport is about to be churning away. So at least he's going to have 3 Vikings on the way at any time. But it's already 3 Colossi walking across the map.
It's just 2 right now, but the third one I think is about to come out and rally across the map. 10th minute mark.
Yeah, it's fast.
herO is going to have 3 Colossi, 7 Stalkers, 6 sentries for force fields and Guardian Shield.
And he wants to bring down that bunker. He does very fast. I would like the Colossi even to be hitting a lot of the other units here. Getting some of these Marines, does catch a few of them. A few SCVs coming off the line as well to try and buffer against this. If the Marauders could get to the back, but they can't because the time warp's slowing them down.
Having
too much has died.
Having thermal lens is such a big deal here. I really don't know how Polt could hold this without like mass bunkers or more Vikings, but he really didn't have that many Vikings in the first place. He's pumping them 3 by 3. This attack really didn't buy him much time at all. And he's going to have to pull the boys now.
Yeah, mass bunkers is a cool idea because it does buy time. At least you can be able to repair that during all of that. But even picks on one of the Colossus with the Warp Prism to keep it alive. This is just a massacre in the end. And even these Vikings are going to end up dying off to the few Stalkers that were warped in from the Warp Prism that was able to pick up the Colossi. And that was pretty much very one-sided. herO with a great engagement, great choice of plan. Polt saw it pretty early, but was not able to deal with it. He's going to lose a little bit more of this bio as well as the last Viking falls, and he has no economy left at his natural. GG, game 2 done, as herO ties it up 1-1.
You know what's crazy? If herO had loaded up his War Prism with 1 Colossus and went to drop it, he wouldn't have had 1 at home, because he had only 1 when he got attacked. Yep. It was like 1 Colossus, a bunch of sentries.
Another was almost nice popping, but it would have
I think he
been a little bit late.
mean, this army was massive.
Yeah,
like even then, Polt pulling back, I think this may have been a mistake. He should have maybe committed his entire bio to try and trade against the Colossus and the sentries, because if he kills them, then there's not going to be sentries with enough energy for Guardian Shield or a lot of force fields when that attack comes, and it's going to be 2 Colossus instead of 1. Then maybe he would have enough Vikings and bunkers to hold. So really not sure here. Like in the end, his team, they lost a lot, killed almost nothing. It just didn't seem worth it the way he handled the attack, and herO just punished that immediately. I wonder if that War Prism was meant to be scouted to maybe scare Polt.
It went pretty far out.
Yeah, maybe make Polt think that he could actually attack with his bio that he had, in which case you have the Colossus back at home, you're golden.
Yeah. That 1 Colossus, you're right, it did help a lot. And the second one was not going to be out in time for that little push. So at least it was able to buy him some time during that. But now, in just a little bit, we're going to be getting into Expedition Lost for Game 3, another one of our new maps. And again, it's one of those maps that does focus around the kind of 2-base play. Third base is very, very far out. If you're a Protoss going for a third base on that map against a Terran, a player like Polt is going to be able to exploit you one way or another.
Really? And a player like herO is not going to be able to pull it off, you think?
2 bases, man.
Is that what you're saying?
2 bases.
2 bases for herO?
Maybe. Yes. It's really far away.
He just did 1. The likelihood that he holds another 2 base is...
It's time for Blink. Actually, maybe not on Expedition Lost. Maybe not.
You're very torn about this. I'm glad I can torture you.
The problem is you can't, like, Blink on Expedition Lost is an interesting one because you can't really get from the front of your opponent's natural all the way back to where the rocks are to then blink up into the main, because it's quite.
But the thing is, for somebody like herO, you don't have to be particularly aggressive with the Blink. He can adjust very well.
True.
He could just go for double gates, enough Stalkers to defend, and maybe a DT drop this time.
Yeah.
DT drop build. Snipe combat shield at 60%. Always a nice thing to have happen for you.
Sorry, Flat. gosh, poor guy. But yeah, that would be nice. That would be nice. He certainly has a lot of tricks up his sleeve, that's for sure. We've seen it time and time again. I spoke to herO before this series actually unfolded, and he seems pretty confident going into this tournament. I think that loss to Polt in the first game may have been a little bit of a shake, because I don't think he really anticipated losing to Polt here. I mean, of course, Polt's a very good player, don't get me wrong. But herO, as Apollo's already mentioned on the analysis desk, he's playing week in, week out with the very best players in the world in Pro League.
You know, there is one build that's very specific to herO, which we haven't seen him do for a little bit of time now. It's the build where you go into Colossus, and after 3, you're going to Charge Loss and Templars without any forges. And usually what happens is that the turn is 1-1, he's on his way to 2-2, and you attack before he has 2-2. And because you skipped on forges, you have, say, 3 to 5 High Templars with energy for Storm. The Terran player will never have Ghosts, or maybe will have 1 to 3, which is not enough if you play well with your Templars, which herO is definitely capable of. So you just kill him right out with the timing, either at the natural or third base. You try to get an engagement against the army of your opponent, you storm everything, and even though he can deal with the Colossus, he can never deal with the amount of Charge Loss and Templars that you have on the ground. And having started 2-2, he's going to play against the Terran, because he's going to have I guess that many units missing in his army in comparison as he would have otherwise. So it's a very interesting build that herO used in the past very successfully, and that I haven't seen from him lately. And I think this maybe could be a good map to pull it off.
Yeah, could be. Okay, so finally herO has chosen the correct race, and we can get into game number 3. He was a little bit shaken, I guess, overall, but countdown has begun for map number 3 as we get herO and Polt on the way. The winner, obviously, going up to play against Hyun or Sen, as those two battle it out in a Zerg versus Zerg. Don't have any updates on that just yet.
Nom.
Nom. I think both of them would have a very good chance against Zergs, in my opinion. Even Polt here, despite what we were looking at in terms of like the WCS America results, I think he's still very good against Zergs. So I think
That's what I said earlier. So you're disagreeing with me.
I changed my opinion after seeing him playing this series
after listening
so
to
far.
Me.
Anyway, not after listening to Todd. Let's get into game number 3. So we have spawning down to the bottom left-hand corner. It is Polt representing CM Storm, and then up to the top right-hand corner, we have our red Protoss. It is herO representing CJ Entus.
Every time I see this map, man, I just look at the middle and I keep thinking Neo planets.
Yeah?
Yeah, bit of the map. It's so similar.
Yeah, I guess so.
And it's a snowy map too, which we've had quite a few. At some point it started, and like we started using a lot of snowy maps.
You don't like snow, Todd?
Not too much.
Does it not snow much in France?
Snow is cold, man. No, I live in the south.
Oh yeah, you do. No, never mind then. Do you go skiing,
Todd?
Do
you think Maynard has ever experienced snow being Australian?
I don't know. I don't think so. Small little bits. Small little bits.
All right, let's see the openers here. herO, he really is one of those Protosses that will almost always open gateway on 13 and do a lot of scouting after it. But he's definitely also one of those Protosses that can skip it for some time. I remember actually the herO opener that he used very well for quite a while was the one where you open with the double gas. That was at a time where every Terran was always opening Reaper, basically 99% of the games. You open double gas, you mine, with the minimum on them.
Yeah.
And by the minimum, I mean you keep 15 or 16 mineral probes, so you mine like 1+1. Then you throw down the Nexus, and then you scout going around that one Reaper that could be there.
Oh, legend. He's been taking tips from me. Look at that. Zooming in on the Tastelope. Anyway.
On the what?
The Tastelope.
It's called a
Tastelope.
Tastelope?
It's named after Tasteless.
Oh, wow.
You didn't know this?
I didn't know that Tasteless was enough of a sick nerd bowler to have craters named after
There's
me.
an Atosa-slope.
I know about this one, yeah.
Oh, but you don't know about the Tasteless one?
No.
Oh. Okay, then, fair play. Well, actually, I really like what Polt's doing on this map, going Reaper as the choice, because it's very difficult as a Protoss to deny the Reaper from jumping up either via the natural or via the back rock location. So you can get a pretty free scout off as a Terran on this map. So I really like the change up here from Polt.
Okay. Are you feeling like there may be a very big blink aggression this game, or do you think we might see the build that I mentioned earlier with maybe the no forge style?
I think if he were to do blink, he would do what you mentioned, which would be not play too aggressive with it, because it can be difficult to get up into the main.
The build that I mentioned, by the way, you can do it on both 2 or 3 bases.
Ah, okay.
I still think, though, that the 3-base version is maybe a little bit better.
Yeah.
Just because like you're selling the story better, that you might be upgrading, and it's very hard for Terran to confirm whether or not you have forges upgrading, you know? You could be delaying like those a lot for all the Terran nodes. Like, and also checking upgrades against Protoss, like pretty difficult, I feel, for a Terran to time those very, very well.
Well, if there is a 3-base version, I still think it's not so amazing on this map because of how far the 3rd base is out, even for a Protoss. It's a bit annoying. Trying to defend against these 3-base locations from drops, etc., something like Polt likes to do.
Since he doesn't go for forges, he would have so much more than usual. He could play right in his favor as well.
Yeah, that is a lot of investment. Not only the 2 forges, but the upgrades as well, so you would have more units, you are right.
On bases where it's actually difficult, on maps where it's actually difficult to take a 3rd base, I've seen herO in the past. I think it was like against Maru in Pro League once upon a time, just taking a 3rd base, spamming Colossus, and when he got the 4th one, he just spammed non-stop Stalkers, got up to like 20 plus, waited for Maru to attack, killed his aggression, most of his, the big chunk of his army, and then counter-attacked and ended it straight away. Rather than taking it, to a longer game where it's going to be difficult to defend against drop and defend at 3rd base in general, he just played, aggression through defense at first and through counter-attacking, which can be a very good way to exploit this kind of a map.
It's going to be Widow Mines here, Todd. What do you think? How do you think this lines up against what we're seeing from herO so far?
Usually herO plays too well against this kind of style for it to work, but in this game he's delayed his robo quite a bit so far. But the fact that he has gone for just double the gateway, I do think that he's going to throw down the robo, and so far it looks pretty similar to what he did against Flash in Pro League. In which case he will go for the robo now, and then a little bit later on for the Dark Shrine, which usually, in that one game, he got behind the mineral line of his natural, which so far he has no pylon there.
Yeah, and I don't think Polt really knows too much about this at the moment. He hasn't been able to get to the back of the base to scout what's going on. Robo's been thrown down here from herO, and this Reaper, unfortunately for it, despite having an opportunity, again, hasn't gone to that back rock area. Hasn't really done too much.
Usually you assign your Stalkers to defending one base and Mothership Core with Photon Overcharge to defend the other. But the thing is, what Polt's doing right now is kind of uncommon. You don't really see that much all that often this kind of build anymore. So this could do a lot of damage if herO just somehow is not ready here and there. And by the look of things, he wants to drop the Widow Mine in one base and attack with the Hellions in another. If those Hellions are spotted before the attacks come, this is a massive town. The Dark Shrine goes down around the natural. So this is going to be the tech lab, the anti-Flash build, let's just call it that. Or the build that beat Flash once upon a time in Pro League.
Well, at least there's 2 Stalkers positioned there to try and do a little bit of damage to this medevac as it enters the fray.
But only 2 Stalkers to defend in the main. He really needs to see that medevac coming, otherwise it's going to be that much more difficult to defend.
Catches the Reaper, and this medevac is going to take a bit of damage as it flies on in.
The Hellions might have free entrance into the natural. I think there is some Stalkers around the natural, but this shouldn't do much.
Observer finished just at the right time.
The Hellions come in.
He actually took away the Observer from that location. These Hellions are going to do a lot of damage during all of this as well.
7 probes already.
Yeah. So 8 gone down there. But again, he could have cleaned up the Widow Mines a little quicker. He actually, he found his Observer that he'd moved with the probes. So at least he did get that finished up in the main.
You know what's funny here is that canceling the Dark Shrine, I don't think is even good. Like, you need to let it finish just because it's come a long way. Like, it's got so close to finishing, and also you don't have to use it. Well, that's one of the good things about it. And DTs are still like fairly cheap to some extent, in mineral and gas. Like, they're not a massive investment. Like, getting one DT, getting it sniped, not doing any damage wouldn't be the end of the world. And he knows that with that Dark Shrine.
I'm wondering if Polt even thought it was a Dark Shrine at all, because he doesn't have an engineering bay down and he doesn't have missile turrets on the way. So he may have thought it was a pylon during all of that.
Possibly, yeah, I guess.
And because there's no reaction.
We'll see if he saves any scans.
Yeah, exactly. Because right now he doesn't have energy for scans, so he just threw mules down a little bit ago. So I think he may have thought it was a pylon during all of that.
To me, it's kind of out of the question, just because Polt is so good that he would not see that. But I guess you have a point. He's getting the eBay only now.
Yeah, it's a little bit later than I was expecting, considering all of that, but one bunker's going to fall at the front. That's a nice pick off for those Stalkers alone.
DT is walking into the natural.
The APA isn't finished yet. It's not finished.
He's about to have some scans here. Defending the first 2 DTs very convincingly is very important, because then you can get turrets up, and then you're completely safe. But 3 SCVs have died. At least 1 more is going to fall here.
At least it's nowhere near as much damage as we saw being done previously with herO versus Flash. But
he's preventing mining time too.
Yeah, exactly. He is actually losing quite a bit of mining time. herO's at 1,300 against 840 at the moment in terms of minerals, and he's getting damage done.
Yeah. just like he did against Flash. But you know what? In that game against Flash, Flash was going for the third base, which by the way could have been killed very easily. But in this game, Polt made that third base in a more safe location around the natural. It's now completing into an orbital, so he doesn't take really critical damage. He's 51 probes to 49 SCVs. And even though the third base is going up for herO, like having the double forge like this and taking as hard as he is behind this, there's going to be a few timing possibilities for Polt to go for an attack and do a lot of damage if he wants to.
But at least the Dark Templars, even though they didn't do massive amounts of damage, they did deny the income for a little bit, it allowed that third base to get up, right? There's no pressure happening on the other side of the map because the DTs are keeping him at home, as well as the Stalkers at the front. They get themselves another bunker, and even the missile turret having to be replaced is really, really annoying here
herO
for Polt.
is so good.
Yeah.
Even gonna get that one DT here, I think, momentarily. 1-1 now underway for herO, who I'm pretty sure he's going to do the same thing that he did against Flash, just get charged, get 2-2 going, and then right after that, get a Templar Archive and go into Storm and a lot of charge lots.
And trying to get a missile turret again at that front position, so herO having to blink back during all of that. And at least this base is really, really gathering momentum now here for herO on the other side of the map. Polt down in terms of supply by just a little bit, evening that up nicely though, and actually finding that Warp Prism eventually. So shutting that down will be a great start for him.
Doing very good on the Walker count actually, like he really didn't miss a bit as well in terms of, you know, keeping up with the probe production. 63 probes to 44 SCVs.
Yeah.
It really feels like Polt has to attack and do damage here, because otherwise he's going to start falling very far behind. Like, at a moment in the game, what's happening?
He could have blinked.
Is he on cooldown?
No, he was not on cooldown. I'm pretty sure he was not on cooldown during all of that, so he could have blinked, but unfortunately lost a few of those Stalkers. Very, very opportunistic there by Polt to be able to push that down. And if he could actually put some pressure on at the back as well, that army's not too big there for herO. As you said, a lot of the supply is actually in probes.
But I mean, having Colossus waiting up the ramp or cliff like this, you can't really drop into that, but I mean,
and
it's a big chunk of army. Yeah, it's only 3 medivacs too. He can't even load up that many units, but I guess Polt is going to start using the mobility of his army compared to herO's, and the fact that, as you talked about, the third base is so far away from the main that if Polt starts to go, maybe to use his old tricks, you know, where he attack in 2 places with big chunks of army, it's going to be so hard to split well as herO here. All you have to do as Polt here is do like he used to do on Heavy Rain. You scan for observers, you deny vision, you make sure your opponent doesn't know how big your army is split in places, and then you're going to do a ton of damage. And look, 2 massive chunks of armies setting up to attack on the left and right hand side at the same time.
This base layout is Poltland. It's his theme park. This is what he is.
Poltland.
This is what he does. He does this. He's done it for so long. He splits his army up so well to hit these 2 locations.
He greets you at the entrance with a Captain America outfit.
He does, and he's got candy floss and everything. It's brilliant. Unfortunately, though, for him, herO split his army up pretty nicely. So he's going to be able to deflect that really, really well. And on the left-hand side as well, I don't think he's going to be able to get too much done.
Actually, usually he doesn't bring his Vikings the way he's doing now, because otherwise they can't retreat and get sniped. But herO maybe overextending here a little bit. Oh, Polt was going for the surround. He might just go for the full-on engagement here.
He's going to have to engage from a really weird angle, and he's going to actually lose a lot of the Colossi because of how that bio on the left-hand side was positioned in between these 2 armies. So Polt takes a very, very dramatic supply lead. Didn't even have to have the Viking support for during all of that to kill off the Colossi. A great little move there by Polt to separate up the army, divide and conquer, bring down the high priority targets. Another Colossi ends up falling, and even the probes offline here for herO, who cannot deal with this torrent of aggression that we're seeing. As I said, it's Poltland, but he holds on for now, does herO.
Polt plays so good, especially in terms of unit composition. He had so many Marauders, and they dealt a ton of damage to this army.
They has to drop the scan there. Unfortunately, those Dark Templars for him are just a little bit too much to handle. He lost 12 workers during all of this, but that basically only evens up the worker count here.
He should definitely have pulled back. Like 50 SCVs to 61 probes is definitely like better than the situation he was in before. Like he kind of overextended with that last attack, and he lost a lot of army because of it. And herO now, he's ahead in supply. He's still okay in this game. Even though he lost quite a few probes, he still has enough to basically keep on producing a lot of units, and even gets an additional robo to maybe increase his Colossus production. He realized that he sniped a lot of bio. There's probably not going to be enough Vikings, especially since Polt lost medivacs as well. He has to remake medivacs. It's going to be very hard for him to get enough Vikings to deal with any kind of good Colossus count that herO might go for. So this could be maybe a game-winning move here. And I don't even think there's 2 stop us. I think there might just be 1 here.
I think if there was a bit quicker saturation on the third for Polt during all of that, then it would have been fantastic. He's actually only transferred a few more SCVs over there about 30 seconds ago to really get that going. And only the second starport going down now,
so
as you
late.
just said.
That is so late.
Yeah.
It's going to be so incredibly difficult for Polt to get enough Vikings to deal with the Colossus. And he's going to need insane drops here. And I mean, those are not insane drops. They're like drops spotted by one single suicidal zealot, which is always sad.
Well, the thing is that I feel that Terran does well in these situations, in low supply situations, when trying to drop across 3 locations, but it's 2-2 against 1-0 at the moment, and that is not the best situation for Polt to be in. He doesn't want to be taking straight-up engagements. He has to continue doing what he does best, which is the harassment on the left and the right.
Is Polt on a single eBay? I think it might be.
Yes.
In which case,
I think
you would just get the attack behind this, and herO kind of I really like the way herO moves out, fakes an attack, kind of hopes, I think, that Polt will try and go for a drop, and then he's just back at home immediately. I never thought of that in the past. Definitely going to be trying that. I'll probably fail the defense anyway, but I will have tried to copy a cool move.
That's fine. That's as long as you try and be cool, that's all that matters, Todd. Well, he's going to try and drop in the main.
Are you giving me one of those speeches, like it's participating that's important?
Well, in your case, yes, Todd. Anyway.
Whoa!
So, this drop on the right-hand side, that's quite strong. And there isn't too much, I don't think, in the main to deal with that. No. So he will see it quickly with the pylons, but again, not many observers anywhere to be able to spot these things earlier on in the map.
herO is so confident. Starting 3-3 here could be very dangerous. A lot of Terrans, you know, if you played Bomber, for example, you should never start 3-3 here because he's going to pull SCVs and attack you before that can complete. But in this case, he started. He feels confident enough. And defensive DT warping. He's going to help in defending. Oh, the Forges.
Oh, if he could bring down the Forges, if he brings them down, it would be fantastic. This army's just being rerouted. What is going on? That is not the direction you want to be going in.
supply blocked. He's supply blocked very heavily.
What just happened?
He gets the Dark Shrine now.
The scans gave him brilliant vision of where the army was anticipating his movement down. He's going to bring down this Nexus. He's not even focusing down the Forges just yet. He's more focusing down anything else that was going down. One of Colossus ends up falling, but this army's bottlenecked. The Zealots can't get on top of this army. He's taking a lot of damage, but he just needs to get out
did a lot of damage, but this is going to be defended, I think. Oh, if he blinks, he gets away.
Why didn't he get the Forges? Well, I mean, that would have been a lovely pickup. He has been having to deal with this little Zealot harassment down in the right-hand side of this map. He actually lost a lot of workers during that.
There is action everywhere, man.
Like 20 or so workers. But
and 3-3 is going to complete now. And I think herO's going for a timing, and Polt doesn't think he has enough to defend and calls GG.
Well,
that was very abrupt.
There you go. GG.
Of an end here.
That was interesting. He lost, again though, we have to reiterate what we didn't see during that down to the bottom right-hand corner with that harassment on that third base, because he lost around 20 or so workers. Before that harassment had gone, he'd lost about 11, then we pulled up that thing and he lost about 35. So that was a lot of his economy down the toilet during all of that. And he didn't kill off big priority targets. He killed one Colossus off, but there were still a few left over after he'd lost a lot of his army trying to snipe out Nexus.
You know what's crazy? It really feels like the way he had to evacuate the third base and like he took so much damage there here, Polt. It could have been prevented with just one bunker there, in which case, you know, you take no damage on that third base, and then you're in, I guess, okay position. I mean, he did lose a lot of army. He didn't snipe the Forges, probably realized that 3-3 was about to complete and he was going to be attacked anyway, but still, like, didn't feel like he was out of it just yet. Like, he was in a bad spot. But I don't know, feels like he left a little bit early anyway. And yeah, I just want to say that basically, maybe with one bunker, he doesn't have to leave here and he's in a much better position. So a little bit surprised that it went the way it did in the end.
Well, regardless of that fact, herO was able to take a 2-1 victory. And also, elsewhere in this group, Hyun was able to take a 2-0 victory over Sen. So that means now we have Hyun versus herO in the winners match, and Polt is going to be going up against Sen in the losers match in Group A. So some cool matchups to come.
Why didn't he go for the Forges, man?
I don't know, that would have been so nice.
It's like
and then get out, maybe.
It's like a dream scenario for Terran and a nightmare one for Protoss. When you make your Forges in the main, and when the Medivacs, and it's not even 2 Medivacs, it was like 4 or 5.
It was a lot.
They dropped everything on top of those Forges. You could literally click it, count 1 second, and the Forges are gone. This was so weird here by Polt.
Wow.
He prioritized everything else, like maybe the Nexus, killing the Colossus, which is definitely nice, but he still could have gotten those Forges.
And then got out and made a longer game of it.
Why, oh, why?
Oh, wow. That does it here from the caster's desk. Let's head over to the analysis desk with our winner. It's CJ herO.
Yes, thank you very much. Yes, we do have herO on the desk joining us. CJ Entus, herO, great to have you back at the Intel Extreme Masters again. We love having you here. We love paying you $10,000 every time you come and giving you a trophy as well.
올 때마다 $10,000씩 주는 게 자기네들은 너무 영광스럽대.
더 영광스럽도록 만들어드리겠습니다.
I mean, it's an honor for him too, and he wants to make it more honorable. I guess his way of saying he'd like to continue collecting those $10,000 every time.
Yeah, we're okay with that. Let's start with game one. I know Sean wants to ask you a question about game one.
Yeah, I was watching it all. Very impressive play from both sides, but the standout question has to be, I suppose, focused on game one, but the overall series. You must have been surprised at how well Polt played today. I think everyone was not kind of expecting that level of play from Polt.
일단 게임 1부터 시작할 건데 지금 폴트 선수가 이렇게 잘 할 거라고 예상을 했는지, 그리고 첫 경기에 그러니까 첫 경기 좀 공격스럽게 나왔는데 그걸 좀 당황한 것 같았어요.
네, 솔직히 첫 경기 해보고 적잖이 당황했거든요.
Said first after game 1 he was kind of like, whoa, taken aback.
아, 그래서 이거 이렇게 그냥 흐르는 대로 가지 말고 그냥 좀 정신 차리고 해야겠다, 그렇게 생각했어.
And he was thinking, all right, I can't just go with the flow with this. I'm going to have to really concentrate and beat this guy.
Okay. Yeah. Game 3. Well, actually, let's do game 2. You said it was like spawn positions decided that had to be an all-in. I just want to get that from herO. What did he think? Was it spawns?
Basically, they forced into that because of the spawning
이
positions.
경기에 그 맵에 이제 시작하는 그것 때문에 그런 빌드를 했는지.
아, 네. 이 경기는 네, 즉흥적으로 자리도 그렇게 나오고 초반 빌드도 제가 좀 유리한 상황이었기 때문에 괜찮겠다 하고 그냥 했었어요.
Yeah, he said it was the spawn. You know, he realized that, and then what he was planning on building was pretty aggressive anyway. And so as soon as he saw that, he was like, I think I'll be all right for this.
Okay. Cool. Good stuff. He knows more English than he lets on as well now, because he does know more English. How much English has he got?
영어 되게 잘하면서 왜 못하는 척하고 있는 영어로 말해봐.
영어는 좀 아껴둘게요. 영어까지 보여드리면
No. Supposed to reply in
제
English.
매력이 너무 많이
He said his English he will reveal later in the tournament. If he reveals too much right now, then there's nothing really for surprise, you know?
Okay, yeah, I get that. That's good. So Hyun is next for you. Easy game, right?
석현이.
네, 석현이 형
붙을 건데
네, 어떻게 생각해요?
뭐 쉽게 어떻게 생각하냐고. 쉽게 이길 선수 아니냐고.
석현이 형이랑 최근에 숙소에서 같이 생활하고 있거든요. 그래서 석현이 형만 진짜 안 왔으면 좋겠다 했는데 딱 오더라고요. 어떻게 이게.
He said actually Hyun's been living at the CJ house, so they've been practicing a lot together. So when he came here, he was thinking, man, Hyun's the one player I don't want in my group. I don't. And then he got it, and he was like, man, you know, this is just the way it goes, huh?
Yeah.
연습 때 해봤을 때 굉장히 잘하는 형이기 때문에 절대 방심하면 안 될 것 같아.
He said when I practice him, he's very good, so I can't rule him out.
Well, just to jump in on that, he's never lost to Hyun before in any tournament. He beat him in the qualifiers on to way to playing today too. What was Hyun's biggest weakness against Protoss before moving into the CJ house, and what has he helped him improve on?
지금까지 보면 경기에서는 현한테 진 적이 없잖아. 그래서 CJ 오기 전에 현이 프로토스 전에 할 때 뭐가 제일 약한 점이라고 생각했어?
그 오기 전에는 일단 석현 형이 공격적인 게 좋기도 하지, 장점이 될 수도 있지만 단점이라고도 생각했기 때문에 네, 생각했어요.
When he first came, he thought Hyun's very aggressive style could be seen as a good thing, but he actually kind of saw it as a weakness as well. 그런 거 많이 도와준 거야 그러면?
숙소에서 딱히 도와주진 않았는데
I was like, so I asked him, did you help him with that or a little bit? And he was just like, well, we're living together. No, I didn't really help him all that much.
Try not to.
저희 숙소 와서 그냥 전체적인 기량이 많이 는 것 같아요, 석현이.
But just in general, coming out to the CJ house, he feels that Hyun has definitely increased in skill just by practicing with everyone.
그래서 석현이 형 경기도 기대해 주셨으면 좋겠어요.
So don't expect too much out of him. They want you to also expect great games out of Hyun too.
Okay, absolutely. Yeah, definitely. One quick question, then last one. Intel Extreme Masters, you've now won 3.
지금까지 세 IEM을 이겼고.
Is this going to be 4? And are you going to be able to win the World Championship this season? Is that your goal?
그게 목표인지 이번에도 이기고 이제 카토비체 가서도 우승할 건지.
카토비체. 네, 일단 카토비체는 생각하지 않고 이번에 우승해서 4회 우승까지 넘보고 싶어요.
Okay, he said he's not even thinking about Katowice right now.
Okay.
But you know what? He would definitely like to make this number 4 for IEMs.
Yeah.
So that's his goal right now.
It's crazy now. It's a great lineup as well. So he's got to go through an awful lot of good players before he can get to the grand final. But he's one step closer, and he will be back after the break playing in the upper bracket match against Hyun. Don't forget, we've got all of our usual social media going on. You can make sure you can tweet or Facebook, depending on what you want to do. Make sure you use the hashtag #IEM. All the details at the bottom of your screen. We'll be back right after the break with more action from the Intel Extreme Masters in Taipei.